Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, Sigval here, welcome back to our video. And yes, we do have enough soul raids to actually make a soul raids tier list. In this one, I'm going to rank all the soul raids on the specific tier depending on how good they are. How good they are is going to be determined by three things. First of all, are they free-to-play friendly? Which most of them are, with some exceptions. Second of all, how are the bosses vibing? How is the soul raid actually playing it experience? And third of all, the soul raid artifact that you get for free and the legendary drop that you have, how good those are. So we're going to start off, let's order them in terms of the release. Yeah, I think this is fine now. I think this is actually the release order. But yeah, first of all, Dawn of Apocalypse, D tier. I'm sorry, I liked the soul raid so much when it released. I think it's the soul raid to this day. I think this is the soul raid where they put the most work into, because all the artifacts, even the pay to get ones, and at the release of it, they were not pay to get because there was a chest where you could get them, and that just like pops up once a year. All of them, while they're not good anymore, they felt like they had a lot of work and thought put into them, not just throw some artifacts in there for the sake of people to buy them and have a chance to have a bad drop. The bosses, though hard, look like they had a lot of thought process put into them. I do like the Firebox artifact, that's like the only redeeming factor about this, but currently it is hard, and it is the only soul raid where nothing splits. No passive stat split, so you're locked into using Firebox every single time on your damage there. Every single soul raid down here splits the artifact bonuses to the entire team. This one locks into using Firebox on your damage dealer, and I don't know why they just don't fix that a bit. Like, I know the health of the bosses in the soul raid is a bit lower than in our soul raids, but that really doesn't make up for it. Like, if they made the passive stat split and they add a legendary dark side drop chance at the end, it would be B tier, I guess, but D tier for now. Rise of Krypton D tier. This is terrible. Like, the only redeeming factor about it is that the bonus is split, which makes it at points a bit more bearable than Dawn of Apocalypse, but that's where it stops. The free artifact is the second worst artifact you're gonna get. You might get some use out of the Kryptonite Spear in some very specific situations, but for the most part, it is not something you're looking forward to getting. You can drop a legendary character, and boy, the bosses in this one. We have Collector Board Superman that is crit, it's dot resistance, crit and lethal immune. It's going to damage you if you get buffed, rendering your Batman Ninja Team and Black Manta useless unless you have a pay-to-win artifact. And look, the thing with the pay-to-win artifact, the LexCorp suit, is also kind of bullshit, because even if you have that, I have it on my secondary account, it doesn't make much of a difference. He just disables some characters because he feels like it. And now they gave him a reflective shield on top of everything else, and a lot of bosses in the story are awful to deal with, like the Batman boss that's in the 5th tier. Nah, bro. Advent of Chaos, I'm actually gonna give this B tier. The only thing that's holding this away from an A tier is the artifact. It's straight up the worst artifact you can drop from a soul raid chakra. You're never gonna use it outside of getting passive stats in this soul raid from it. You have a chance to drop Raven, which is great because she's one of the best, if not the best character in the game. I would say for the pay-to-win side of things, she's the best. For the free-to-play side of things, she's the second best character in the game. Yeah, the bosses are not that bad. Like, the thing is, when this released, they were awful to deal with, because there was crit resistance, and now we do have dark metal cards, which is going to allow you to bypass that crit resistance, which retroactively made the soul raid far more bearable to deal with. But yeah, it still has issues. Very bad artifact. And the bosses, even though you can use dark metal cards to bypass that very annoying crit resistance, they still feel very restrictive at points in terms of what teams you can use and what combinations you can use. So yeah, B tier. Last Contract, S tier, easy. Deathstroke is a good legendary character you can drop. God tier is a good artifact you can drop. And the bosses, while not being the most thought about bosses, like, this is the blandest soul raids out of all of them in terms of what the bosses actually do to you. There's absolutely no mechanics here that you need to deal with and play around. You could go blind into the soul raid, not knowing anything about any boss, just drop a team and press play, and you'd be fine most of the time. And for that reason, I am tempted to put it in the A tier, but let's leave it in the S tier because you guys are going to be mad about it because you love the last contract, as it's the easiest soul raid out of all of them, possibly. Dark Knight Soul Raids has an amazing artifact, one of the best artifacts in the game you can get for free, and has a good legendary character that it can drop. Now the bosses are not the best thing in the world, but are not the worst thing in the world. And Batman Who Laughs is okay to deal with. He's got an interesting mechanic, I guess, that is going to take over your character, and you need to deal with that. The only very annoying thing about this boss is that they left him the special 2. Like the special 2, you can't avoid it unless you tag out to avoid it, and it's gonna be armor piercing and defense sundering, so that's gonna one-shot most characters. If this man did not have the special 2, it would be so much better, but I'm gonna give it 8 here for now. The OnI Soul Raids. I feel like OnI Soul Raids is heavily underrated because of 2 reasons. First of all, it had a rocky start because at the release of the Soul Raid, the artifact bonuses didn't split because they wanted to vibe check, oh, do we make more money if the artifact's bonuses split or if they don't? And it didn't work, everybody got mad and they changed it. But everybody hated it at the start because of that reason. And the second reason is, Boss Black Adam. Not Boss Black Adam, excuse me. Yeah, Boss Black Adam is an advent of chaos, but you can deal with that. Boss Black Lightning. Who had the idea to give Boss Black Lightning a special 2 that is going to allow him to trap you and deal constant damage to you and make you not move, and also give him chaos tagging, also armor pierce on the 3rd special, also disables gears for my characters. Yeah, because of those 2 reasons, I feel like this soul raid is very underrated, because other than that, which is a big hurdle to get through, like Boss Black Adam is a big problem. But if you get over that big problem, you have a soul raid with a good legendary that has a chance to drop and a good artifact. And the final boss is not that hard. Well, he's not the easiest one either. So I feel like let's just do this for now. I feel like this represents the tier a bit more. Now, this is Magic Soul Raids. This is the Zatanna Soul Raids. Yet again, it's fairly easy, with a few problems in between. It has a great artifact that it can drop. It has a great legendary character that it can drop. And the final boss, Zatanna, can be tricky to deal with because she's one of those bosses that has infinite ramping up of power. Like, I don't know what was the trend. Like, Mr. Freeze can get infinite power up, though he's easy to deal with because he only has access to the additional damage when you're frozen, and you can just not get frozen by dodging the bombardment thing. Zatanna's got constant damage buffing. Black Adam's got constant damage buffing. I don't know what was the thing with that, but this Zatanna Soul Raid is fine. You can get some good legendary from there. Good artifact. I feel like A tier for this one. Let me know in the comments if you think it's B tier or something else. Black Adam Soul Raids. Bro, the final boss, Black Adam, is just awful for so many reasons. I got so frustrated by him. Look, it has a good legendary to drop, and it has a very good artifact, one of the best artifacts in the game, and for those 2 reasons, I'm gonna put it at B tier. But as far as playing the Soul Raid, like actually playing the Soul Raid, like the experience of it, and the experience and the frustration of fighting my boy, Black Adam, is just something else. It's just absolutely something else. This man can tag you out with a hazard that's roughly hard to dodge. He gets increased damage when you tag out, and he can stun you on tag. And like I don't like to deal with that. And it's a lot of times to the point where it gives you the worst feeling a fight can give you, where you're like, it was not my fault. The game was rigged at this point. So I feel like B tier. Again, pulled up a lot by the artifact and the legendary that drops. And Kingdom of Madness is the most recent one that we got. I don't like it too much. I actually do not like it that much. Look, on one hand, and this is valid for Conduct Soul Raids and somewhat for Zatanna. It feels like, I mean, not necessarily from me, kind of all the people got this vibe, but it feels like they kind of got the idea that the bosses were getting kind of bland and they tried to innovate across the board and add new modifiers to the bosses. And I think with all the bosses, not the final boss, let's make that clear, for Rise of Krypton and Kingdom of Madness, for all the main bosses but not final bosses, they did a good job. They did a good job trying to do new things, and I think Kingdom of Madness is more or less the peak of that, because all the bosses have some interesting mechanics that you can interact with. Like Joker's got the shield on tier 1. Not too bad, not the best mechanic. Then you have Swamp Thing who summons clones, but unlike somebody else from Dawn of Apocalypse, is not awful to deal with. Then you have Batman the Drowned, who just buffs you, which is great. You have Batman who laughs on tier 4, which juggles the buffs. It's all around fun stuff. It's fun stuff. The final boss is kind of lame because I just don't want to deal with. I just simply don't want to deal with the AI of Robin King. Like, that thing is awful, almost impossible to predict, has weird animations. It's not hard though. It's not hard because they gave up the infinite stacking boss buff that they had going on with these Zatanna Soul Raids and the Black Adam Soul Raids. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like B tier and maybe get this one to A tier. It's either like this or like this. Yeah, I think this feels a bit better. But yeah, this is my tier list for these Soul Raids, keeping in mind how hard they are, how accessible to new players they are, what artifact drops and what legendary drops. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me and what would you change. Also, we could like order them from like best to worst in this tier. I feel like this is still... And also the artifact in this one is just awful. It's terrible. It's the second worst artifact. Actually, for that reason, I'm not even sure if it's better than Advent of Chaos, because they both got awful artifacts, but I like Raven more than dropping Robin King. I don't know, maybe it's more bearable a bit than Advent of Chaos, because though yet again we did... Now I remember again, with it they yet again did a lot of crit resistance and lethal resistance, so it's Advent of Chaos all over again in that regard. So yeah, leave it like this. I feel like Rule of Conduct is a bit better than OnI Soul Raids, and this is fine. But yeah, this is the tier list. Thank you so much for watching. Like it if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.